Target has some pretty bomb sushi. Like, for the price and for store quality sushi, it's pretty darn good. Obviously, it's not going to be, primo level, but pretty darn good. Nice job. Welcome, everybody. My name is Michael, and today we're discussing about the topic, is Bitcoin a Ponzi scheme? So, let's begin with history. 100+ years ago, there was a man, and he was a businessman, and he decided, hey, I got a pretty cool idea. I got a financial investment opportunity of a lifetime for you folks. Listen up. This is like arbitration, there are some coupons. That's right, coupons from abroad. And when I get these coupons to America, I'm able to actually make a profit off of them. This is a investment opportunity because I'm making profit. All I need is more money, and then we're able to make more profit together because 1 + 1 is 2, and 2 + 2 is 4. So, would you rather make more money? Oh, looks like that's a fire truck. Look, would you rather make more money, or would you just want to sit on the sidelines and let me make all the money? This gentleman promised a massive return. That's right, you had two options. Either invest with him for 45 days or for 90 days. If you invested in 45 days, that was a 50% profit. That's right, a 50% profit. If you invested for 90 days, a 100% profit. Not bad for people at the time who realized, hey, this guy might be onto something. And this was not the decade of the internet age where you could just fact check all the information online. People had no idea what they were doing, and a lot of people were definitely financially illiterate. So 45 days or 90 days, in 3 months, you double your money. A lot of people decided, well, what's there to risk? So they'd invest a few $100s, which at the time was thousands of dollars for some of these individuals. And Ponzi eventually grew his company from 1919 to 1920. Just over 100 years ago, yes, he was able to reach an astonishing sum of $1 million per day, which again, with inflation, $1 million per day today is pretty crazy. Back then, his total scheme was able to net over $20 million, which is worth a few $100 million in inflation today. In just a year before his whole scheme fell and he went to prison, this man was named Charles Ponzi, of which we now know his name for Ponzi schemes, very synonymous. So, it grew too big. And people were suspicious, and he was able to ward off the suspicions for a little bit, but the way he was able to quickly grow his company was, first off, promising massive returns for something that might have made some sense. Postal reply coupons, which at the time, possibly, if you did it the right way, you were able to make a little bit of money from, but to get the sums that he was getting, it was impossible. His company was at a loss. He was paying off the first wave of investors with second wave of investors' money. Then a second wave would get from the third, and third from fourth. It was a pyramid scheme, but eventually it gets too big. And the sums of money that you're promising in such a quick fashion, it's impossible to pay out, because pretty soon if you keep going up all the way to the top of the pyramid and you keep this going for as long as possible, like Bernie Madoff, he was one of the largest Ponzi schemes, the mastermind behind it. That was a $64 billion scheme that after a few decades he was caught. And this guy was pretty big. He was a Wall Street financier, and a lot of banks trusted him. A lot of very powerful people trusted him. Hey, he was the head of NASDAQ. A Ponzi schemer was in charge of the NASDAQ stock exchange. So, in both schemes, it got too big. The reason Charles Ponzi failed first, and very quickly, is because he promised too much returns in too little of a period, and the way he promised these returns were coming from, you had journalists that were trying to uncover what was going on, and they realized, well, it's a bunch of baloney. It's impossible, because you'd need hundreds of millions of stamps, and there's only tens of thousands in circulation. So it was pretty easy to uncover, where in the case of Bernie Madoff, it took quite a longer period of time until there was a recession and everyone wanted to cash out and they couldn't, and the whole scheme collapsed, and both of them went to prison. That's right, for the rest of their lives. And they died in prison. So, with that little history lesson out of the way, Is Bitcoin a Ponzi scheme? In my opinion, it's not. There's some financial analyst out there that will say, of course it's a Ponzi scheme. And if you're a philosopher, then I guess you could say, technically, Bitcoin is a Ponzi scheme. Just as the banking system is a Ponzi scheme. Just as the whole world's financials are a Ponzi scheme. Because when you really think about it, when you want to go that deep into it, it's a little weird that we're living in a country right now where the debt is growing and our president has just raised the debt ceiling for, what was it, the 79th time, I believe, and it's going to continue growing, and they want to issue a coin that's worth $1 trillion to the treasury, and it's just a weird thing that's going on, because what's going to happen 10 years from now? What's going to happen 50 years from now? 100 years from now? All these countries are borrowing from each other, the banks, and it's an inside job. But if it collapses, the whole world's economy collapses. So it's just a weird system. And if you really want to say that Bitcoin is a Ponzi scheme, then you have to examine the banking system. And that's why a lot of people go to Bitcoin, because they're afraid of what's going to happen with the banking system. Everyone knows that banks can be pretty crooked sometimes. And I'm sure you've had lower cases where even in your own account, your own life, your own experiences with banks, maybe they shut you out of an account. Maybe they locked you. Maybe they charged you exuberant fees for something that you said, what the heck is this for? Some banks have actually committed massive fraud and been charged for it. But Bitcoin, in order for Bitcoin, first of all, let's examine the whole argument. In order for something to be a Ponzi scheme, not going into big picture philosophy ideas, but just straight up, if Bitcoin is a Ponzi scheme, it's people who are investing in it. Has anybody been scammed by Bitcoin itself? Is there any organization behind Bitcoin? Yes, there's going to be scam artists and scam companies that are related to cryptocurrency, but we're not talking about that, because there's scam companies in every industry. There's con men for every single product and service out there right now that are trying to scam in one way or another, or hack or phish or whatever. We're not talking about that. Is there an organization behind Bitcoin that's trying to get people to invest for their own profit? And are they paying out, in the simplest fashion, are they paying out dividends or interest or profit, whatever, through the first wave of investors to the second, to the third? No. Bitcoin's not a Ponzi scheme. Is it a highly volatile asset sometimes? Yes. Is the banking system pretty volatile at moments with no backing behind it either? Because Bitcoin doesn't have backing, but the banking system, the safeguards and all that, you think that's going to protect you like it did in the recession and the Great Depression and whatever possibly might be coming up in the next 10 years? We don't know. Even last year, during the whole pandemic, when everything just went sour in the Black Swan event, I mean, people were freaking out. Remember that? I've never heard of anyone promising guaranteed profits with Bitcoin, apart from scammers, which promise guaranteed profits from selling anything nowadays. So again, you can't really listen to those guys. But legitimate people, the top Bitcoin investors, the early adopters, the Bitcoin programmers, the cryptocurrency companies at the very top. It's sensationalist to claim that anybody's trying to force another individual to invest in cryptocurrency. And my whole viewpoint has changed, where I'm very bullish on cryptocurrency, but I don't try and encourage people to invest. I tell them, hey, I'm interested in cryptocurrency. If you're ever interested, before you invest, you should probably do your research. Maybe a good 6 months of research, so you have an idea of what you're working with. Because if you invest and you lose money because you had no idea what you were doing, then you might get turned off from it. But don't apply this just to cryptocurrency. Apply this to anything you'd like to invest more than, $50 into, because if it's $20 that you're gambling with your buddies, it's not going to matter. Whatever, that's for fun. But if you're actually trying to make some money, always educate yourself, and you might actually discover some pretty cool things. So that's my whole viewpoint. I don't try and encourage people anymore, because if you tell them to invest in it and they're going to lose their money and they're going to get very upset and That can happen with anything. That can happen with stocks. That can happen with futures. It could happen with real estate. You hear, oh, everybody's making money with real estate. I don't have enough money to get a mortgage, or maybe you do, and you buy the wrong place, the wrong location. You lose a lot of money, get the wrong contractors, or you get REITs, but you have no idea what you're doing. You could very easily lose money. So no one's encouraging to purchase from pretty bad. Ooh, Brembo's squeak. So, no one's encouraging others to, yeah, I heard that again. No one's encouraging others to get into Bitcoin. But some people would say it's a Ponzi scheme because the energy consumption that Bitcoin uses is already more than a country's worth of electricity. To get a single transaction over, it costs more than the average household in America uses in a month or something like that. Well, okay. Everybody uses YouTube. Everybody uses Facebook. Everybody uses banks. So how much does the banking system, first of all, consume energy, and Facebook and the internet and everything? And how many of these sites are actually useful? How many of them are useless? How much electricity is wasted per year for memes and for stupid stuff that just honestly, you could take this electricity, give it to a poor family, and they'd be in a much better position. But no, the internet wastes it every single day. While cryptocurrency, yes, a lot of it is speculative, but some people use it as a currency. Others make money off of it. The programmers are trying to change the world with blockchain. Yes, as it grows larger, it will consume more energy, but it's still just a fraction of what the banking system and the internet and basically everything around us uses on a daily basis. So there's no one chasing me down because last week an investor who purchased Bitcoin, they need Bitcoin for me. So a lot of people are saying, okay, all right, energy consumption, whatever. There's a lot of other industries that consume way worse energy amounts. And yeah, it is what it is. Okay, so that's a different argument. Yeah, I guess you could better state that with NFTs. Sure, NFTs do fall into cryptocurrency, but a lot of people just say Bitcoin is a Ponzi scheme. And sure, crypto is a Ponzi scheme, but more so Bitcoin. Well, okay. What about the early investors, the early adopters? They're the ones who are the recruiters because they're the ones who are making money. Well, they're making money because it's a speculative asset, just like stocks, just like futures, just like anything of value. As soon as it rises, other people, the demand rises, other people want it as well. But there's risk associated with purchasing into a company or into an idea or into a crypto or stock or anything that's new, because you don't know if it's going to be successful, and you have to get a reward, because if it is successful and you've been holding out that long, you had to invest your own money, you had to invest your own sweat, tears, stress, and that risk is paid off. So people invest in stocks and crypto because, sure, they want to make a little bit of money. There's no debt that's owed to somebody. It's already been paid off. The whole idea is, if you're an early adopter, sure, you'd like to encourage others to get in on this pretty cool, neat thing, whatever it is. If it's a new car, for example, recently Squid Show, I don't really watch much TV shows, but it got really popular. I watched it. I really liked it. Okay, it's hyped up. Every now and then you're going to have these social phenomena that are going to happen. People are like super hyped up about this movie or event or service or product or car or technological revolution or whatever it is. And yes, a lot of people will say, oh, it's changing the world. Maybe not always, but it has already changed the world. Blockchain has been incorporated into technologies that are saving lives right now, that are helping with data, that are producing jobs, that are actually running big corporations and helping them. So you can't say that it's valueless. You can't say that there's someone chasing you down for this money. It's not a Ponzi scheme. Is it speculative? Yes. Is it risky? Yes. But in order to live a better life, you have to take risks sometimes. And it's not like you have to bet the whole house. You can just put 1% of your paycheck in. If you don't like it, no one's forcing you to buy it. And it's not like you're going to get scammed